What's the most expensive mistake you've ever made? Maybe you bought the wrong stock or backed into a pole with your car. Whatever it is, I can almost guarantee it's nothing compared to the mistake we're talking about today. We're about to dive into a story that involves billions of dollars, a corporate giant, and a single fatal error made in a courtroom. This isn't just a legal case. It's a cautionary tale about how one slip-up can lead to one of the biggest financial penalties in history. So picture this. It's the 1980s. Big hair, neon colors, and two of the biggest oil companies in the world are locked in a battle of epic proportions. On one side, we have Texaco, a well-established giant in the oil industry. On the other, Pennzoil, a smaller but fiercely competitive player. At the heart of their dispute was another company, Getty Oil. Pennzoil thought they had a deal in the bag to buy a huge chunk of Getty Oil. They shook hands, announced the deal, and were ready to pop the champagne. It was a handshake agreement, a done deal in their eyes. But here's where the plot thickens. Before the ink was even dry on the Pennzoil deal, Texaco swooped in. They saw an opportunity and made a higher offer directly to Getty Oil's board. And just like that, Getty Oil ditched Pennzoil and sold to Texaco instead. Pennzoil was left at the altar, and they were furious. They felt betrayed. They believed they had a binding contract, even if it was just a handshake deal. So, they did what any scorned multi-billion-dollar company would do. They sued Texaco. This set the stage for one of the most legendary court battles in American corporate history. Pennzoil sued Texaco for tortious interference, which is a fancy legal term for intentionally messing up someone else's business contract. Pennzoil's lawyers argued that Texaco knew about their agreement with Getty and deliberately sabotaged it. Texaco's defense was simple. There was no final signed contract. It was all just negotiation, and they were free to make a better offer. The case went to trial in Houston, Texas, Pennzoil's home turf. The stakes were astronomical. The trial was a spectacle. Armies of lawyers, mountains of documents, and intense media coverage. The key question for the jury was whether Pennzoil's handshake agreement with Getty was actually a binding contract. For weeks, both sides presented their evidence. Pennzoil's lawyers painted a picture of a solid agreement that Texaco maliciously destroyed. Texaco's lawyers argued it was just a preliminary agreement, nothing more. The tension in the courtroom was palpable. Everyone knew the verdict could change the landscape of the oil industry forever. Now we get to the heart of our story, the mistake. The moment that cost billions. Texaco's lead lawyer was a brilliant, highly respected attorney named Richard Miller. During the trial, he needed to question an expert witness, a legal scholar who could testify about whether the Pennzoil-Getty agreement was a real contract. Miller had a list of 10 carefully crafted questions designed to show the jury that no binding contract existed. His strategy was solid. He was going to walk the witness through these questions one by one to build an airtight case for Texaco. Miller began his questioning, and things were going well. He was methodically dismantling Pennzoil's argument. But then he decided to go off script. In a moment of what some have called arrogance, and others a simple lapse in judgment, he asked a question that wasn't on his list. It was an open-ended question. He asked the expert witness, "Do you have any other information that might help the jury understand whether a contract existed?" He was confident the expert would just reinforce his previous points. He was wrong. The expert witness paused. The courtroom fell silent, and then he delivered the bombshell. He said that, in his expert opinion, there was one particular document that seemed to indicate a binding contract had indeed been formed. He pointed to a press release issued by Getty and Pennzoil, announcing their agreement in principle. The witness explained that this document, combined with the other evidence, could absolutely be interpreted by the jury as proof of a contract. You could practically hear the jaws drop in the courtroom. Miller had just handed Pennzoil's lawyers the smoking gun, delivered by his own witness. The damage was immediate and catastrophic. Pennzoil's lawyer, the legendary Joe Jamail, seized on this moment. In his closing arguments, he hammered that point home again and again. He essentially told the jury, "Don't just take my word for it. Texaco's own expert thinks there was a contract." The jury, who had been sitting through weeks of complex legal jargon, now had a clear, simple piece of testimony to latch onto. It was the turning point of the entire trial. Milleur's one unscripted question had backfired in the most spectacular way imaginable. When the verdict came in, it was stunning. The jury sided with Pennzoil, and the damages. a mind-boggling $10.53 billion. That's billion with a B. It was the largest civil judgment in U.S. history at the time. The award was so massive it threatened to bankrupt Texaco, one of the largest corporations in the world. Texaco's stock plummeted. The company was thrown into chaos, all because of one question. The legal battle continued for years through appeals, but the initial damage was done. Ultimately, Texaco was forced to declare bankruptcy to protect itself from having to pay the full amount. After more negotiations and legal wrangling, the two companies finally settled. Texaco agreed to pay Pennzoil $3 billion to end the dispute. $3 billion. It was less than the original verdict, but still an astronomical sum of money. A fortune lost, a corporate giant brought to its knees, and it all traces back to that one fateful moment in a Houston courtroom when a lawyer decided to ask one question to many. So, what can we learn from this incredible story? In law, in business, and even in life, preparation is everything. Sticking to the plan can be the difference between success and disaster. Richard Miller was a brilliant lawyer, but a single moment of overconfidence led to one of the most expensive mistakes in history. It's a powerful reminder that even the experts can make errors, and sometimes the smallest slip-up can have the biggest consequences. The Texaco Pennzoil case is now a legendary part of legal folklore, a textbook example of what not to do in a high-stakes trial. Next time you think you've made a costly mistake, just remember this story. It might not make you feel better, but it will definitely put things in perspective. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible tales from history. See you in the next video.